Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So welcome back. We are continuing with the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, entitled the Eightfold Yoga System or the Ashtanga Yoga. So yesterday we discussed about the vision of an advanced yogi, so wherein Krishna explains that he is able to see within everything the Supreme Lord and also able to see all the living beings within the Supreme Lord. So, Yomam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mai pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sachame na pranashyati. So, this is the vision of a pure devotee. So, yesterday also we discussed how the Bhagavatam also points out who is Uttama Adhikari. Uttama Adhikari has got these traits, particular characteristic of able to see Krishna everywhere. He could see, because the reason for that is he is so much imbibed with the pure devotion. So Srila Prabhupada immediately gives the reference of Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena, such an important verse which shows what is the stage of a pure devotee. Now Srila Prabhupada further, yesterday we had discussion on the qualities of a devotee, how he is able to have this equal vision, and then after having heard all these qualities of an advanced devotee, Arjuna is again expressing his inability to take up the process what Krishna has offered, or specifically with respect to the Eightfold Yoga System, Arjuna is raising his hands. He is saying that it's very difficult for me to follow this process, for me to be equipoised. Krishna also speaks about another quality of the advanced devotee, which is Atmopamyena. He is very considerate with all the conditioned souls. He sees the suffering of the conditioned souls, he takes it for himself, he just gets onto their shoe, and then he is able to feel the difficulty that the conditioned souls are undergoing, and he really wants to do some welfare for others. So and even we heard earlier that how an advanced devotee with let it be an enemy or a friend or whomsoever it may be, he is able to see with his vision. So Arjuna specifically points out that it's very difficult for me to be in this situation, and also to follow all these regulations that are mentioned in this Eightfold Yoga System. I think it's impossible for me. And Srila Prabhupada specifically in the purport, his purport was very unique. He is discussing all the possibilities of Arjuna's specific characters, his powerful mind, his physique, his ability to discriminate, his understanding of scriptures. Like Prabhupada gives quite a details about Arjuna's characteristic, and then Srila Prabhupada points out that such a person like Arjuna is rejecting this process. So what to speak of us in Kali Yuga? So, but Srila Prabhupada is suggesting that better chant Hare Krishna, and we also discussed that how easy process it is. Then now Arjuna is specifically pointing out about the nature of the mind. So specifically my mind is it's so strong, very turbulent, stubborn, obstinate. Arjuna is Sanchalam Mana Krishna Pramati Bhalavad Dridam, he says. So it's very strong, stronger. Even the wind can be controlled, he says. But I don't think so I'll be able to control the mind to take up this process of Eightfold Yoga System. So Arjuna also, yesterday we saw in the commentary it is mentioned that maybe I may be able to perform such an act for 3 days, after that I will not be able to do it. So Arjuna is rejecting that process. Then Krishna is again acknowledging Arjuna's position that yes Arjuna, I agree with what you say, mind is difficult to control, asamshayam mahabaho manodurnigraham chalam. Yes, mind is very difficult to control, but by practice and detachment, abhyasena tu kaunteya, vairagyena cha grihyate. So these are the two solutions Krishna is offering, that by regular practice and by developing detachment, one will be able to subdue the restless mind. So this is what Krishna has offered, and Krishna yesterday concluded with the verse that one has to somehow or other control the mind and keep the mind under his control. So that is the success Krishna is pointing out. So we also yesterday discussed how the application of detachment and control of mind should be applied in the Bhakti Yoga process. So now Arjuna takes the whole discussion to another level. Again you can see in this series of verses, Arjuna is again showing symptoms of lamentation. We could see right from the beginning, Bhagavad Gita is a very, the discussion is very emotional. When Arjuna himself is put in a very emotional situation, he had to fight against his grandfather, he has to fight against his own Guru is so dear to him, and so Arjuna was going through an emotional crisis, and Krishna immediately starts to identifying about his lamentation, and we had a whole series of instructions from Lord Krishna, how one should not be in a bodily platform, one should see from the platform of the soul. Now Arjuna is again concerned, okay, you are asking me to take up this process of the yoga system, what if something happens on the process? So that's now Arjuna's concern, so we will deal with those verses. Text 37. Arjuna uvacha ayati shraddhayopeto yoga chalitamanasah aprapya yoga samsiddhing kangatim krishna gacchati. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but who later desists due to worldly mindedness and thus does not attain perfection in mysticism? Very valuable question, important question. So Arjuna is concerned of the person who has taken up this process of yoga. So at the beginning, someone has taken it with great faith, with great inspiration, yes, began the practice. Ayati Shraddhayo, this word Shraddha is used here, with faith he has started. So, but what happens over the period of time, course of time? Chalita Manasaha, in the process of yoga, he has deviated from the process of yoga. So what is going to be his condition? If aprapya, he is not able to attain the perfection, what will be? Some siddhim, he is not able to attain perfection. So what is the condition of such a person? Kangatim Krishna gacchati. Oh my dear Lord, what will be his destination? Where he will go? What should be the solution for that person? So in that terms, Arjuna is raising this question. So Srila Prabhupada, the purport is discussing about the path of the Eightfold Yoga system. Self-realization is sought by the path of knowledge, by the practice of the Eightfold Yoga system, or by Bhakti Yoga. So there are, to attain self-realization, as we saw, there are different processes that is given in the Vedic scriptures. Krishna himself is advocating various processes. And here Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that down these two processes, the Ashtanga Yoga system and the Bhakti Yoga, there are two processes Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. By the Ashtanga Yoga system, the Jnani, what he does, he is able to come in touch with Paramatma. There is one set of practitioners who will be able to see the Paramatma by this stringent practice. And very much this practice was prevalent in the Satya Yuga, because you see 1 lakh, the lifespan is 1 lakh years. 40,000 years they may spend in family life and other material, engage in material activities, of course in a dharmic way. But then it takes, to attain perfection in this process of this Eightfold Yoga system, it is sometimes said that it even takes 60,000 years. So many thousands and thousands of years of tapasya. Samadhi means it's not something you just do for some short time. Samadhi is a long period practice. dharana, dhyana, and then samadhi. So that's why we see many of those examples that we see in the Bhagavatam also, most of them are in the Satya Yuga. A long practice. So that is one process that they take to come in touch with the Paramatma. Then another easy process, that is the process that Krishna himself is suggesting and he himself is encouraging to take up the process of Bhakti Yoga. Now, please carefully look at this point here Srila Prabhupada is pointing out. In each of these processes, one has to realize the constitutional position of the living entity, his relationship with God, and the activities whereby he can establish the lost link and achieve the highest perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. What Srila Prabhupada is talking about here? Anybody had read the purport? I will again repeat this, please see. In each of these processes, one has to realize the constitutional position of the living entity, his relationship with God, and the activities whereby he can re-establish the lost link and achieve the highest perfectional stage of Krishna consciousness. He can take up the process of Ashtanga Yoga or Bhakti Yoga or any yoga system. These three things has to be established. Yes, good. That's the point Srila Prabhupada is clearly pointing out, because the whole Vedic system is putting us in perfect position. Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojana. It should be very clear. So unless the Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojana is established, then the whole goal of our life will not be very clear. So that's what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out here, that through all these practices, one has to know what is Sambandha, what is the Abhidaya. So that means that we need to know absolute truth. What is that absolute truth? Is he a person or an imperson or a localized? That has to be clear. And then, so to establish my relationship with that Supreme, what should I do? What is the process? And then what is the goal of this process? That should be very clear also. Finally merge with the Supreme or become nothing. Everybody has got their own philosophy. So that has to be clear. So all the Sambandha, Abhidaya, Prayojana, the whole, if you can just take the scriptures, the Vedic scriptures, any portion of the Vedic scriptures we can classify into these three categories: Sambandha, Abhidaya and Prayojana. Okay, Srila Prabhupada further continues. Following any of the above mentioned three methods, one is sure to reach the supreme goal sooner or later. This was asserted by the Lord in the second chapter. Even a little endeavor on the transcendental path offers a great hope for deliverance. Bhakti Yoga is especially for this age. Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that this is the best process to be taken in the Kali Yuga. Now, here is the concern Srila Prabhupada is addressing in the purport. To be doubly assured, Arjuna is asking Lord Krishna to confirm his former statement. One may sincerely accept the path of self-realization, but the process of cultivation of knowledge and the practice of the Eightfold Yoga system are generally very difficult for this age. Therefore, despite constant endeavor, one may fail for many reasons. First of all, one may not be sufficiently serious about following the process. To pursue the transcendental path is more or less to declare war on the illusory energy. So now let's try to have some understanding on this point. Here, Srila Prabhupada is raising about the challenge one may have in taking up any process of devotion. So one may start with a burst of enthusiasm, but one may eventually, for various reasons, he may give up the process of devotion or the process of any yoga system he takes up because of weakness of mind, hridaya dhaurbalyam. Various reasons could be discussed. Now, there is a contrast between the process of devotion and the other processes. Now, in this, we already discussed about this point. When we take up the process of devotion, we have a great advantage. What is the advantage in the process of devotional service than in the other process? What is the factor which makes a big difference? What's that? Simple. Okay, that's a good point. This is the point. We have a shelter. We can rely on someone. But the other processes are not like that. There is a lot of endeavor from our side, and we can think with our mind, control of the senses and control of the mind, with strenuous practice. All those efforts will be there on this side also, but we completely depend on Krishna for our progress. So that's why we have to have faith on the process of Krishna consciousness. We should have we should know that Krishna reciprocates. Krishna, if with faith, if you take shelter of Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate. So Srila Narottama Das Thakur points out that Ashraya Loya Bhaje Krishna Tare Nahi Tyaje. So anyone who takes shelter of Krishna, Krishna doesn't give him up. So we have to stick to the lotus feet of Krishna. So also this is an important understanding in the process of Krishna consciousness. Diksha Kale Bhakta Kare Atma Samarpan. Shei Kale Krishna Tare Kare Atma Shaman. So when a devotee with faith, it makes steady progress in Krishna consciousness, he comes to the stage of taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he accepts the order that is given by the Lord to approach him through the bona fide spiritual master. And at that time, when he comes with such a faith and surrenders his life to his bona fide representative, Krishna sees that person as good as himself. So this is the great advantage a person has while taking the process of Krishna consciousness. Now, there is always great risk in any endeavor in this material world, even in the process of Krishna consciousness also. So that's why other day we heard, that Srila Prabhupada is pointing out, this is the best gambling actually. Taking the risk in trying to surrender to Krishna is the best process. Now, eventually in this process, there can be various reasons by which we may deviate from the path. There could be one of the reasons that we could think of is there could be offenses that we may commit in the process of Krishna consciousness, Nama Aparad, Seva Aparad, Jiva Aparad, Vaishnava Aparad. All these things can completely take us away from our ideal goal that we need to please Krishna. We need to ultimately please Krishna, and we engage in his service birth after birth. That's the goal of devotional service. So we can get deviated. So since Arjuna is raising this concern of what will happen to a practitioner who has taken this process with faith, so there could be a gross fall down, there could be a subtle fall down. So fall down is a fall down, and it could happen to anyone at any point of time. So a fall down could be it could be a circumstantial fall down, or it could be a planned fall down. Planned fall down is already you start contemplating on some things. You're attached to something, and then you start contemplating, you start planning. Circumstantial fall down is because of the weakness of the heart, and we are in a particular situation. We really did not wanted to do something, but we just got carried away. Srila Prabhupada in the section of Ajamila, pastimes of Ajamila, he points out that it was an accidental fall down for Ajamila. Ajamila really did not plan that now he will go and then look at the prostitute and see the pleasures they are undergoing. It was just like that. He went to pluck the flowers, and he happened to see, and then his mind got completely disturbed. And then later we could say when he was when he dealt with his wife, he wanted to send out the wife, and those were conscious activities. But initially when he fell down, it was it was an accidental fall down. So what happens? Disaster happens specifically for a practicing devotee as well. Maybe he will stop practicing the regulative principles, that the vow that he gave during initiation. The worst thing is one stops to chant Hare Krishna. That's the even more worst thing. So this could be the different kinds of fall down that can happen to one, and we can see that even when there is a fall down that happens like this, how to overcome that situation. So that is what we need to look at and see how we can come out of this situation. So fall down in Kali Yuga, in this material world, is not so surprising, because it's a very Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada many times defines Krishna consciousness with various approaches. One place he very clearly says, many places he says that Krishna consciousness means waging war against Maya. So when there is a war, when the soldiers are fighting, definitely there will be casualties. So now the point is that we should see how we can overcome, and then we can rise from the fallen situation. How we can come out of this fallen situation. So that needs to be understood. So Srila Prabhupada in I think in the book that is compiled, The Perfection of Yoga, in that he points out that failure is the pillar to success. He points out like that. So one may, for various reasons, he may fall down, he may go away from the path, but one has to not lose heart. One should sincerely and honestly acknowledge the difficulty that he has, the mess that he had done, and try to immediately come back to the normal position. So if you can see the reasons, what are the various other reasons one may go away from this path. One might have taken the power of Maya very slightly. He might not be so much, just by practicing Krishna consciousness for some time, he might have been initiated, he might have done some service. Over a period of time, he may have taken things in a very light way. He might not be serious about the practice of Krishna consciousness. So, but when a fall down happens like this, so the first thing, we also see from Ajamila's section that Ajamila became very humble. He took up a very humble position after he realized the great mess that he did. So that is one thing. As part of the introspection, we have to think that we are not independent enjoyers. So this is what Krishna says, no, prakrite kriyamanani gunai karmani sarvashaha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. So one thinks himself to be the controller, then one becomes so puffed up. And Krishna does, when someone becomes very puffed up, Krishna through his energies, through Maya, he gives some lessons so that someone comes back to his normal condition. And one should also be very honest, straightforward, to accept whatever has happened and should be ready to rectify the situation. So that is required. We could pray to the Supreme Lord, offer our sincere prayers, and we can ask for protection. Srila Prabhupada himself was doing it. Srila Prabhupada was offering, when once a devotee was asking, he was bold enough to ask Prabhupada, what are you praying for? He said, I am praying always for protection, so that I don't fall down. There is no question of fall down with respect to Srila Prabhupada, but Srila Prabhupada is setting an example that we should always offer prayers to the Lord, always reminding ourselves that we are very tiny jivas, we just want to be engaged in the Lord's service. And then when some untoward incidents happens like that, it is a lesson that we learn, and then we take a special effort. We have to be more conscious. Now, when we discuss about fall down here, it could be a gross fall down, it could be a subtle fall down. On every one of us, we may not have. It could be a thought that is lingering on our mind. We might not have acted on it. So even the moment that thought comes, it's a fall down. So immediately we have to rise up. We should, with the help of the scriptures, with the help of advanced devotees, we should come to our consciousness. That is why this hearing is so important. Every day we hear from Gita and Bhagavatam and from Srila Prabhupada and other great acharyas, it immediately puts us back into our constitutional position. Whenever we start to misdirect ourselves, when with proper hearing, it puts us back on our normal track. So introspection, it's very much required. And if the whole problem begins when we just totally give up any hopes of coming back to this path. If we totally give up our endeavor to rectify the situation and proceed further in this process of devotional service, that is the most dangerous situation. So in that situation, we will give up the association of devotees. So that has to be understood. So these are some of the points that we can think. And Srila Prabhupada also here in this purport, he is pointing out, he is saying that, therefore, despite constant endeavor, one may fail for many reasons. First of all, one may not be sufficiently serious about following the process. To pursue the transcendental path is more or less to declare war on the illusory energy. So that's why we cannot take these statements very lightly, that is given in the Upanishads as well. Uddishto jagrata prapya varannibodha shurasya dhara. So it is, spiritual life is like walking on a razor's edge. Why the statement is given like that? That means that we need to be conscious. We need to be always conscious of what we are doing. So to be always conscious means that is Krishna conscious. To be Krishna conscious, we need to get all the time. We need to be under the guidance of Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So that will help us to be on the right track. Srila Prabhupada further points out, consequently, whenever a person tries to escape the clutches of the illusory energy, she tries to defeat the practitioner by various allurements. Now this is the point. So that is why for a devotee, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami also, he says that one should wear, what do you call it? You can call a necklace or a garland that is made of what? Made of a particular gold, diamond. No, he says that you wear this verse, Trinadapi Sunichaina Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadhena Kirtaniya Sadaharihi. This is the garland one should wear, and one should remember our position as the servant of the Supreme Lord. So we should remember that, and we should in a very humble way try to practice the pure devotional service. So that will always remind us that we are servant of the servant of the servant. So Srila Prabhupada here points out, consequently, whenever a person tries to escape the clutches of the illusory energy, she tries to defeat the practitioner by various allurements. So now, if we are always very humble, we always stick to the parampara, and we are always begging for the mercy of the Lord, we are on a very safe path. So we are protected by the Lord. The moment we become puffed up, we become arrogant, we become proud, then we need to be either directly or by Krishna's various energies, we will be corrected. Okay, let's continue with this purport. So Prabhupada points out, a conditioned soul is already allured by the modes of material energy, and there is every chance of being allured again, even while performing transcendental disciplines. This is called Yoga Chalita Manasaha, deviation from the transcendental path. Arjuna is inquisitive to know the results of deviation from the path of self-realization. So now this is the point here that definitely even on a royal road there can be an accident. Prabhupada mentions that we already saw it in one of the purports. We will see again Prabhupada mentioning it in the purports that to come in the 18th chapter. So that is a great risk that is there, but our hope is that we keep our faith on Krishna, we keep our faith in the devotees, and we endeavor sincerely and go back. And we understand that even if we mess up, okay, so we should not leave the path of Krishna consciousness. Yesterday we had discussed this example. A child may make some mistake, child may, for the mistake that the child has done, mother may give a slap, mother may correct, but when the child is hungry, naturally the child goes back to the mother. Similarly, even if we have committed some mistake, if you have fallen down, better to be humble and then go back and then take shelter of Krishna and his devotees. And devotees and the Lord are very merciful, and they give us shelter and they engage us in the Lord's service. So that is the whole point. If we just for various reasons go away completely, then what option we have in this world? There are only two things, Krishna or Maya. Only two things are there. So if we go away from Krishna, we will be just by the stick, we will be continuously getting beatings from Maya. This is what is going to happen. Adhyatmika klesha, adhibhautika klesha, adhidevika klesha. So we will be suffering and struggling in this material world. So an intelligent person, so also this is required. Of course, when we are in Maya, our intelligence doesn't function. So whatever that we read, whatever that we hear, we should contemplate, and then we should try to apply those teachings in our life. Then we can gradually make progress. So this is the whole point. So here, it's a very reasonable question Arjuna is asking, to know what will be the status of an aspirant or a sadhaka who takes the process of this spiritual life. Okay, here is one nice conversation. Here Vishnujan Maharaj was asking a question to Srila Prabhupada. How will it be possible, Prabhupada, for a man whose mind is clouded to constantly chant Hare Krishna? A man who is always thinking thoughts about family, friends, country, nation. Yes, how can we think mundane thoughts and at the same time chant? Two things are happening, and one will conquer. As Maya is working to drag you from Krishna consciousness, you can challenge Maya by chanting Hare Krishna. There is a constant struggle, and Maya is very strong. She will entice you to other paths. But if you persevere, if you chant loudly, you need not fear Maya. Simply improve your chanting and you will be the conqueror. Narayana parasarve na kutaschana bibhyati. We are not afraid of Maya because Krishna is there. Krishna says, Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Just declare, my devotee will never be vanquished by Maya. Maya cannot do anything if we become strong. And what is that strength? Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, loudly. So this is what Srila Prabhupada says. So what is the essential point here? Essential point here is that we need to take shelter of Krishna. That is the strength. And at the same time, we should not think that now we have conquered Maya. We many times hear this example how one guru in our movement before was speaking some bold statements that almost like I have conquered Maya. So when someone speaks something like a statement like this, it's very dangerous. So that means that this is immediately a symptom of fall down. So that we need to know what is our position and what is Krishna's position, and we need to always remember that we are eternal servants of Krishna. Then in that way we will be able to overcome the effects of Maya, and we will be completely sheltered by the process of the Krishna consciousness. Okay, let's continue with the next verse, text 38. Kachinno bhaya vibrashtash chinnabram iva nashyati apratishto mahabaho vimudo brahmanah pati. O mighty arm Krishna, does not such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from both spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? So Arjuna further is questioning that what the position of such a transcendentalist is that he may not be able to make any progress in material life nor any progress in spiritual life. And what he will, Krishna here is an analogy is being given by Arjuna. Arjuna is asking that he will be like a riven cloud. Sometimes we can see that when you look at the clouds, there will be some group of clouds, there will be one cloud which will come out of the main group. And then within no time you can see that it is completely lost. You will not be able to see that at all. Or sometimes you may also have an experience. You can see when you are heating water or something, there will be some good steam that will come up. And in seconds you can see that steam will be disappeared. So here Arjuna is saying, sir, what is going to be the position of this transcendentalist? No, at least he could have tried something. He might have been a great success materially. He could have gone to Swarga, or he could have been comfortably practicing, enjoying some comforts of this material world, or he might have, if hoping that he's thinking he will be able to go to Swarga or to other upper planetary systems or liberation, he could have attained that. But if he just drops out for whatever reason, he will neither would have made advancement in spiritual life, nor he would have made progress in material life. So what is his position? He is like a riven cloud. So Arjuna is concerned about the risk of taking again this process of Krishna consciousness. So now Srila Prabhupada is speaking about the progress. So those who are materialists have no interest in transcendence. Therefore, they are more interested in material advancement by economic development or in promotion to the higher planets by appropriate work. But when one takes to the path of transcendence, one has to cease all material activities and sacrifice all forms of so-called material happiness. Yeah, we discussed this analogy. Srila Prabhupada points out about a cloud in the sky. Now, this is that always, we have this argument from people, hey, don't join the Hare Krishna movement, it's a great risk. You are, at least now you finish 10th standard, 12th standard, get a doctorate degree, be well settled in the material world. Later you can think. So how many times we hear this argument? But then we always see a similar discussion goes on between Narada Muni and Vyasadeva also. We can see Srila Prabhupada, how many times he refers to this verse, which is a very key verse in the Bhagavatam, which speaks about the power of Bhakti Yoga, or the glory of devotional service. Tyaktva swadharmam charanam bhujam hare bhajan apakvota patayit yato yadi. So this is the point, that what is the great advantage of taking to the process of Krishna consciousness? You will not be lost. That Krishna will establish now. So now, yes, one may think that, if he had not endeavored in this process of taking up the process of spiritual life, he might have, sometimes they say, no, if I had been working now, if I had studied, I would have been in this post, I would have become like this, I would have earned so much, I would have had this much asset. So many things people say. But that is all, we already had this discussion. Krishna gave a similar kind of an introduction in the second chapter of the Gita. Do you remember a verse where Krishna speaks about, he touches this point of advantage of taking this to this devotional service. Thank you. Neha vikrama nasosti pratyavayona vidyate swalpam apyasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. So, if a devotee in the path of dharma, if he, whatever progress he makes, that is his eternal asset. There is no loss in that process. So that is the whole point here, that Srila Prabhupada here is giving conclusion in this purport, that how this path of Bhakti Yoga is the safe path. So here, Prabhupada is concluding, the Brahmana Pati is the path of transcendental realization through knowing oneself to be spiritual in essence, part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who is manifested as Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. Lord Sri Krishna is the fullest manifestation of the Supreme Absolute Truth, and therefore one who is surrendered to the Supreme Person is a successful transcendentalist. To reach this goal of life through Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many births. Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Therefore, the supermost path of transcendental realization is Bhakti Yoga or Krishna consciousness, the direct method. So, Krishna is pointing out, and we will see from the upcoming chapters also, and also here also the hint is given, Srila Prabhupada specifically knowing the mood of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna, he is pointing out the power of pure devotional service or the Bhakti Yoga. So the Bhakti Yoga system, what it does, immediately it puts the person on the transcendental platform because of the direct service he engages in for the Lord. He is serving the Lord directly by chanting His names, hearing about His glories. He is engaging in the process of now with the Bhakti, and he is making a steady progress in this way. Now all the other processes, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out about how for someone to know that Krishna is supreme, it takes so many lifetimes. Bahunam Janmanam Ante. It's not so easy to come to this position. So one may be on the level of practicing Karma Yoga, someone will be on the level of Jnana, someone will be practicing, one will come to the realization of Paramatma, but after many lifetimes one will come to know Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada is concluding in this purport that, so this is the topmost transcendental realization, and in this topmost transcendental realization there is no loss. One will make steady progress. Even if someone takes, even in other paths also, someone may be anyone who has taken a step forward, who has given up the idea of sense gratification, who has purified his existence by any process he takes, that means he is in the path of dharma. Until he comes to that path, one has a touch with the fruitive activities. He will not make much progress. But it is still, if even that fruitive activities, if he does according to dharma, there is a gradual touch with the path of eternity. But when one is engaged in vikarma, then that is more dangerous. That's why we see Srila Prabhupada that we had quite some discussions on what is meant by karma, what is vikarma and what is akarma. So from that, the perfection of in the path of akarma is the process of bhakti. Okay, let's continue the next verse. Etanme sankshayam Krishna chetum arhasya sheshatah twadanyas sankshayasya chetana upapadhyate. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. So here Arjuna is acknowledging Krishna's supremacy. So Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead, and already Arjuna has accepted him as his spiritual master, and he is so confident that no one else in this world can clear my doubt. Only you can do it. And already Krishna, from the beginning of the second chapter, we could see he has already started one by one. He is removing all the doubts of Arjuna and establishing that you have to understand that you please act according to my wish. This is what is Krishna ultimately is driving. What is Bhakti Yoga? Bhakti Yoga is all about doing what Krishna wants. What Krishna requires, we do that. That is what is Bhakti all about. And Krishna is gradually raising Arjuna to that situation. So here Srila Prabhupada in this purport, he is pointing out that how Krishna could clear this doubt, because Krishna is Vedaham Samatitani Vartamanani Charjuna Bhavishyani Cha Bhutani Mamtu Vedana Kaschana. Krishna knows past, present and future, but no one else knows that. Krishna is fully aware of it. So that's what we saw. It is a very important difference between a conditioned soul and the Supreme Personality of God. Even what is the difference between Arjuna and Krishna? Krishna could remember all past, present and future, but Arjuna could not. So that is what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out in this purport. Krishna is a perfect knower of past, present and future. In the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord said that all living entities existed individually in the past, they exist now in the present, and they continue to retain individuality in the future, even after liberation from the material entanglement. So he has already cleared up the question of the future of the individual living entity. So here Srila Prabhupada is hinting that not that he is going to be lost, he is not going to be merged, his existence is going to be there. That is already discussed. Now Arjuna wants to know the future of the unsuccessful yogi. So no one is equal to or above Krishna, and certainly the so-called great sages and philosophers who are at the mercy of material nature cannot equal him. Therefore, the verdict of Krishna is the final and complete answer to all doubts, because he knows past, present and future perfectly, but no one knows him. Krishna and Krishna conscious devotees alone know what is what. So a devotee is empowered by Krishna. Since he is in touch with Krishna, he knows the heart of the Supreme Lord, so he can also give proper guidance. So that's why we take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master who comes in parampara, who has understood the mission of the Lord. And in fact, he has understood the mission of the Lord to that extent that even if Krishna, we saw this discussion in the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, don't disturb the ignorant. So let him gradually get purified. But a devotee takes a step ahead and says that, no, actually Krishna wants him to surrender to him. Let me go and disturb that ignorant souls also. So that much a devotee knows the heart of the Supreme Lord. So here one Prabhupada says that Krishna and Krishna conscious devotees alone can know what is what. Exactly, that is a perfect statement. Okay, now the Lord is beginning to address Arjuna's doubts, and he is now going to discuss the various practices. A transcendentalist, whatever different practices he does, what is going to be the consequence of such practice. Text 40. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Parthanaiveha Namutra Vinashastasya Vidyate Nahi Kalyana Krit Kaschid Durgating Tata Gacchati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, son of Pritha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction either in this world or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So Krishna immediately gives an assurance that whatever happens to a person in this path, it's all auspicious. Vinashastasya vidyate, there is no loss for such a person. And he says that Kalyana Krit Kaschid, this is a very, very auspicious path. There is no question of inauspiciousness in the process of Krishna consciousness. Durgatim Tata Gacchati. So he is not going to attain any kind of bad destination. So Srila Prabhupada immediately discusses the benefits of taking up the process of Krishna consciousness. So even Narada Muni, when he was pointing out about the glories of devotional service, why Vyasa was not happy even after compiling the 4 Vedas, the Puranas, Itihasas and everything, still he was not happy because he has not sufficiently glorified the pure devotional service. And one of the aspects of the pure devotional service is that that there is no loss in this endeavor. Even someone may take up the process of prescribed duties very promptly, he might have done all the activities, but if by those prescribed activities, if he has not raised to the level of Krishna consciousness, so that kind of an endeavor is only Shrama eva hi kevalam. So that is what the Bhagavatam is pointing out, that by all your endeavors, the path of dharma, if you have not pleased Krishna, if you have not taken a step to please Krishna, such an endeavor is not a worthy endeavor. It is just it's just a waste of time. So that is what here Narada Muni is pointing out to Vyasadeva, that So on the other hand, if someone has taken a step ahead and he has come and he has come to surrender his life to Krishna, and he has only did it for a short span of time, it is worth, because he has already taken proper steps in the path of transcendence. So that is the point that Srila Prabhupada is referring to in this purport. Now, further in the purport is, for material prospects there are many activities, both scriptural and customary. Yet transcendental is supposed to give up all material activities for the sake of spiritual advancement in life, chant in Krishna consciousness. One may argue that by Krishna consciousness one may attain the highest perfection if it is completed. But if one does not attain such a perfectional stage, then he loses both materially and spiritually. It is enjoined in the scriptures that one has to suffer the reaction for not executing prescribed duties. Therefore, one who fails to discharge transcendental activities properly becomes subjected to these reactions. So now there is an argument somebody may pose. See, there are so many, there are in various scriptures, what are all the different reactions one will get? It's very clearly given. So sometimes it may look very scary. Oh, so I have to, if you don't please the Pitris, what is going to happen? If you don't please the sages, if you don't please the demigods, if you don't please the king, if you don't please your relatives, there are so many reactions one is going to get. But what the Bhagavatam has got to say with this, the Bhagavatam refutes. The Bhagavatam assures the unsuccessful transcendentalist that there need be no worries. Even though he may be subjected to the reaction for not perfectly executing prescribed duties, he is still not a loser, because auspicious Krishna consciousness is never forgotten, and one so engaged will continue to be so even if he is low-born in the next life. On the other hand, one who simply follows strictly the prescribed duties need not necessarily attain auspicious results if he is lacking in Krishna consciousness. This is what we discussed. Can you guys immediately remember an example from the Bhagavatam who was practicing Krishna consciousness, so a very advanced devotee, but he got into a very low birth? Chitraketu, yeah. Of course others are also there, that just comes to me. He got into a body of Asura. Asura is a very low body, but he was completely Krishna conscious. Okay. So Prabhupada further he classifies the humanity in this purport. You can see humanity may be divided into two sections, namely the regulated and the non-regulated. Those who are civilized and uncivilized. So those who follow the principles of prescribed duties in the scriptures are classified amongst the regulated sections. So they are dharmic. And those who are engaged simply in bestial sense gratifications without knowledge of their next life or spiritual salvation belong to the non-regulated section. The non-regulated section, both civilized and non-civilized, educated and non-educated, strong and weak, are full of animal propensities. So when we say uncivilized, when we say uneducated, that means what? That he is not following the principles of dharma, he is simply absorbed in eating, sleeping, mating, defending, not at all in a dharmic way. So that is why somebody may be educated also, so-called education he may have, but if he acts in a very adharmic way, what kind of propensity he is showing? Animal propensities, that's all. So their activities are never auspicious, because while enjoying the animal propensities of eating, sleeping, defending and mating, they perpetually remain in material existence, which is always miserable. On the other hand, those who are regulated by scriptural injunctions, who thus rise gradually to Krishna consciousness, certainly progress in life. So this is the whole point. We have to take to the process of dharma. So we may be a very, very neophyte, but still we are on the right track, right path. So if we don't take up to the process of devotion, then we may be very gentle in our behavior, very sophisticated in our dealings, but it is all in hovering on the mental platform. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvai gunai tatra samasate suraha harava bhaktasya kuto mahadguna manoratena sati davato bhi. So we are just hovering on the mental platform. So this is what anybody, a karmi, jnani, anyone who is not taken up this transcendental path, if he is just very selfish oriented and is always trying the process of satisfying the senses, that's the only thing he follows, then that is very inauspicious path. Prabhupada gives further divisions in this chapter. The followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity, those who are trying to find ultimate liberation from material existence, and those who are devotees in Krishna consciousness. Who are this referring to? The followers of scriptural rules and regulations who are enjoying material prosperity. Who are this? Karma kandis, or even those who have not, those who are practicing, yeah, we can say karma kandis, yeah. Those who are trying to find ultimate liberation from material existence, the jnanis and the devotees. So these are the three categories. So those who are following the rules and regulations of the scriptures for material happiness may be further divided into two classes. Those who are fruity workers and those who desire no fruit of sense gratification. So there's one, the first one is the karma kandis. The second one we could say call in as even those who have not attained perfection, they are the karma yogis. Those who are after fruitive results for sense gratification may be elevated to a higher standard of life, even to the higher planets, but still, because they are not free from material existence, they are not following the truly auspicious path. So as long as one is very much attached to enjoy his senses, he is not taken up the auspicious path. So what is this auspicious path? Prabhupada further discusses. Any activity which is not aimed at ultimate self-realization or liberation from the material bodily concept of life is not at all auspicious. Activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity, and anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. And because the Eightfold Yoga system is directed toward the ultimate realization of Krishna consciousness, such practice is also auspicious, and no one who is trying his best in this matter need fear degradation. So that is a point we discussed in the beginning, that even if one takes the path of this Eightfold Yoga system, because if the goal is Krishna and if he is sincerely endeavoring in that path, there is no loss, there is nothing to fear. So that is the whole thing. So here, if you see, this path of bhakti is a very powerful process, and the key factor in this process of bhakti is to surrender to the spiritual master. We can see at the end of the conclusion of this chapter also, and again, Prabhupada in many places, in conversations, in the Bhagavatam purports, in Chaitanya Charitamrita purports, all major of in his major works, he will point out one specific verse which is a very key to making progress in devotional service. Yasya deve parabhaktir yata deve tata guru tasyarte katitay artah prakashante mahatmanah. So for one who has got strong faith in the words of Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and equal faith on the words of the spiritual master, to such a person the imports of the Vedas are revealed to such a person. So that is the key factor. In one place, Srila Prabhupada says, I don't remember to which disciple, he says that don't try to become spiritually advanced. You simply serve your spiritual master. One place he's giving instruction that you simply follow him, simply stick to him. So that means what? So by having full faith on the words of the spiritual master and sticking to his mission, one will make progress. And apparently there may be some difficulties, situations, but if one sticks to it, and he will see that he will attain perfection in Krishna consciousness. And same thing, Krishna is driving to Arjuna. Don't worry about so many other things. What will happen to me? I am going to take care of you. Simply stick to me. Simply surrender to me. So Krishna is hinting this process. Okay, let's continue. And also we can see those who don't understand this process of devotion, then they will suggest, don't take up this path. It's a very risky path. Better you keep yourself comfortably situated in this material world. Then it's very safe. Don't unnecessarily take up this path of devotion. Many people sometimes, as we discussed before, that don't join the Hare Krishna movement. So much advice is being given. They are all on the side of Shukracharya. Same thing, Shukracharya was advising to Bali Maharaj. Shukracharya didn't want Bali to give everything to Krishna. But Bali Maharaj was very intelligent. He thought, what is this? I have to offer everything to this Brahmana who has come. So I have given a word, I have to give everything to the Brahmana. So Shukracharya was not at all happy about it. So he knew that this path is very auspicious. There is no inauspiciousness by myself giving everything to Krishna. So this is a devotee. A devotee understands this, and simply for this, a devotee is in a very safe position. So even there may be apparent what to say, there could be apparently he may fall down, but the risk that he has taken is always counted. Krishna never forgets, and he is going to, it's a question of time that he is going to be back on track. So it's always a safe path. Krishna consciousness is all auspicious path. So that we should always remember that. Mangalam Mangalebhyopi. How does it go? I just don't remember. So he says that one unknown author, he says that the chanting of this Hare Krishna, Mangalam Mangalebhyopi, Pavanam Pavanebhyopi, Hare Ramaiva Kevalam. It says that this chanting of Hare Krishna is always auspicious. It is the most auspicious path. So we should always have this faith, and we should take up this process of devotional service and continue our progress in the path of devotional service. Okay, this is a small from Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan's purport. We see here Krishna is addressing Arjuna with great affection. He is saying that Arjuna, don't worry, this process is a very auspicious path. So here Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan is pointing out that Krishna addresses Arjuna as Tata to express affection because he regards him as his son. Tata means father. Lengthening the first syllable so that it becomes Tata indicates someone dear to the father. The father or senior addresses the junior son or pupil as Tata out of mercy. Okay, text 41. This verse shows the result of the yogi who fell after practicing for a very short time. Now Krishna discusses about two kinds of practitioners. One who has taken up this process of Krishna consciousness or taken up the process of yoga for a short span of time, and then he left it. For whatever reasons he has left the path. And then another scenario is discussing of a person who has been in this path for a longer period of time. So this verse discusses about a short span of time. So it's an important verse to learn. Text 41. Prapya punya kritang lokam ushitva shashvati sama shuchinam shrimatam gehe yoga brashto vijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. So two things are pointed out here. One is Shuchinam and another one is Srimatam. Shuchinam means Shuchi also could immediately refer to the being born in the family of the Brahmanas. And Srimatam means Sri refers to wealth. So he could be born in aristocratic family or the Vaishyas is being pointed out. So Srila Prabhupada is again in the purport discussing that there are two kinds of unsuccessful yogis. One is fallen after very little progress and one is fallen after long practice of yoga. So this particular verse is discussing about a yogi who had made progress for a short span of time. Okay, destination of the devotees who fail. But those who do not preserve to such an extent and who fail because of material allurements are allowed by the grace of the Lord to make full utilization of their material propensities. And after that, they are given opportunities to live prosperous lives in righteous or aristocratic families. Those who are born in such families may take advantage of the facilities and try to elevate themselves to full Krishna consciousness. So now this is that's why it said that it is worth giving a try to this process, because there is the destination one is going to get is again is going to get an opportunity to continue and take up the process of Krishna consciousness. So here Shri Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur is pointing out with giving an example. Some yogis, even though perfected by fate, have a desire to enjoy and then accept such enjoyment. Examples are Kardama Muni and Saubhari. Such fallen yogis, after enjoying materially, are born in the houses of those performing proper religious acts, Suchinam, and who are wealthy merchants or kings, Srimatam. So now let's go to the next verse, which discusses about a yogi practicing for a longer period of time. Atava yoginam eva kule bhavati dhimatam etadhi durlabataram loke janma yadidrisham. Or if unsuccessful after long practice of yoga, he takes his birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly, such a birth is rare in the world. So Krishna is pointing out here that such a birth as to be born in the family of transcendental is very rare. He says durlabhataram, he says. So that means that it's not so often to get such an opportunity. One has it's a rare case. Now Srila Prabhupada in the purport is pointing out, it is especially the case in the Acharya or Goswami families. Such families are very learned and devoted by tradition and training, and thus they become spiritual masters. In India there are many such Acharya families, but they have now degenerated due to insufficient education and training. So actually that's what has happened in the recent years, in the modern days, because of lack of training, and then yoga brashta has happened. Yoga nashta also has happened, that gradually the very strong practicing families, they have gradually drifted towards other practices. So Srila Prabhupada is pointing out the reason for that situation: insufficient education and training. By the grace of the Lord, there are still families that foster transcendentalists generation after generation. It is certainly very fortunate to take birth in such families. Fortunately, both our spiritual master, Om Vishnupada Sri Srimad Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, and our humble self had the opportunity to take birth in such families by the grace of the Lord. And both of us were trained in the devotional service of the Lord from the very beginning of our lives. This is some amazing statement. Prabhupada is very humbly presenting his situation that how he had the great fortune to be born in the family of devotees. Srila Prabhupada's father also was a great devotee of the Lord. You can see how he was always thinking that his son should become a devotee. He helped him conduct Ratha Yatra. Whenever sadhus come, he will request them, please bless my son so that he can become a devotee of Srimati Radharani. He was very conscious, he arranged for a Mridanga teacher for him. In the young age, Srila Prabhupada learned Mridanga, and he was very devoted. You can see he was a family man, he was doing this, I think he was a cloth merchant. He was also involved 3 times, he was worshipping, he was doing the puja, and also there was a small deity, Srila Prabhupada was worshipping, Radha Govinda deities. He was worshipping, so he took care and he trained. And Srila Prabhupada also here specifically points out the eternal relationship Srila Prabhupada has with Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. How he was so much, by great fortune he met Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and that was the great inspiration for Srila Prabhupada, and he later started the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And we can see Srila Prabhupada is not any ordinary soul. He is a complete transcendental personality who just came from the spiritual abode to save the fallen souls. And then in this purport, I just missed to read one line, very nice statement Prabhupada is making. Later on, we met by the order of the transcendental system. Prabhupada makes it so nicely, he's putting it. That, so this is all the great souls, they appear, they meet, and they have a mission to do. And Srila Prabhupada met Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur immediately spotted Abai Babu. He immediately knew that, why can't you preach in the West? You know the English language, preach in the West. So that was the instruction Srila Bhakti-siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave to Srila Prabhupada. And we can see here that Srila Prabhupada was Krishna conscious, was always Krishna conscious. So I just have one quote. This is an interesting incident that is mentioned, I think in the Servant of the Servant, if you have somebody who would have read. Once Tamal Krishna Maharaj, for whatever reason, he was asking about Srila Prabhupada's position. So Srila Prabhupada responded in a letter saying that how there was never a time Srila Prabhupada forgot Krishna. So let me just book that. Okay. My dear Tamal, please accept my blessings. I beg to acknowledge receipt of a letter dated 18 June 1970, sent by special delivery airmail. Krishna philosophy is understood as it is in the Vedas. Yasya deve parabhakti. So I just told many times, Srila Prabhupada quotes it. A spiritual master is always liberated. In any condition of his life, he should not be mistaken as an ordinary human being. This position of a spiritual master is achieved by 3 processes. One is called sadhana siddha. That means one who is liberated by executing the regulative principle of devotional service. Another is kripa siddha, one who is liberated by the mercy of Krishna or his devotee. And another is nitya siddha, who is never forgetful of Krishna throughout his whole life. These are the 3 features of the perfection of life. So far Narada Muni is concerned, in his previous life he was a maid servant's son, but by the mercy of the devotees he later on became Siddha, and next life he appeared as Narada with complete freedom to move anywhere by the grace of the Lord. So even though he was in his previous life a maid servant's son, there was no impediment in the achievement of his perfect spiritual life. Similarly, any living entity who is conditioned can achieve the perfectional stage of life by the above mentioned processes, and the vivid example is Narada Muni. So, I do not know why you have asked about my previous life, whether I was subjected to the laws of material nature. So, even though accepting that I was subjected to the laws of material nature, does it hamper in my becoming spiritual master? What is your opinion? From the life of Narada Muni, it is distinct that although he was a conditioned soul in his previous life, there was no impediment of his becoming the spiritual master. This law is applicable not only to the spiritual master but to every living entity. So far I am concerned, please pay attention here, I cannot say what I was in my previous life, but one great astrologer calculated that I was previously a physician and my life was sinless. Beside that, to corroborate the statement of the Bhagavad Gita, Shuchinam Shrimatam Gehe Yogo Brashta Vajayate, which means an unfinished yogi takes birth in rich family or born of Shuchi or pious father. By the grace of Krishna, I got these two opportunities in the present life, to be born by a pious father and brought up in one of the richest aristocratic families of Calcutta, Kasinath Mullik. The Radha Krishna deity in this family called me to meet him, and therefore last time when I was in Calcutta, I stayed in that temple along with my American disciples. Although I had immense opportunities to indulge in 4 principles of sinful life, because I was connected with a very aristocratic family, Krishna always saved me. And throughout my whole life, I do not know what is illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating or gambling. See this statement, what Srila Prabhupada says, so far my present life is concerned, I do not remember any part of my life when I was forgetful of Krishna. This is Srila Prabhupada. So sometimes there is some discussion, Srila Prabhupada, whether no question of even asking about his position. He is a Paramahamsa, pure devotee, just descended here to this material world just to save all the fallen souls out of compassion. Srila Prabhupada came and then he very mercifully gave us Krishna consciousness. So this letter clarifies Srila Prabhupada's perfect position as a Nitya Siddha Mahabhagavata devotee. And so from the level of Uttama, Srila Prabhupada took to the role of Madhyama, and then he was preaching Krishna consciousness and saving the lives of people. So that is made clear that how by the arrangement, by the transcendental system, great personalities meet together and give Krishna consciousness. Okay, let's continue with the next verse. Tatratam buddhi sanyogam labate paurvadehikam yatate cha tato bhuya samsiddhau kurunandana. Yeah, now further in these upcoming verses we can see here Krishna is pointing out how they take up to the process of Krishna consciousness from where they left. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of Kuru. So immediately Srila Prabhupada in the purport is pointing out about Bharat Maharaj, how Bharat took up to this process of Krishna consciousness, although he was, as we saw he was practicing, he was a pious king, who was very much ruling the kingdom, and after some time, he decided to take up the process of transcendental meditation. Bharat went to the forest, he was taking the transcendental path, and even after reaching the level of bhav, due to the attachment of the deer, he had to again fall down, and then he became a deer in the next life. Then again he got an opportunity to associate with transcendentalists. Then he got an opportunity to be born in the family of a Brahmana, but this time he became very careful. He did not want to indulge his senses in any pious or impious activity, nothing. He wanted to be completely aloof. And then his father could never understand why he was like that. But he was very cautious to take up Krishna consciousness very sincerely. And later, nobody knew. They thought that he's almost like a dead matter, they thought. But then when he started speaking to King Raghugana, then they knew how powerful he was and what a great devotee he was. So here Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that the practice of yoga never go in vain. From this life it is understood that transcendental endeavors or the practice of yoga never go in vain. By the grace of the Lord, the transcendentalist gets repeated opportunities for complete perfection in Krishna consciousness. Yeah, so there is a risk is there, one may take up other processes, and there is specifically if the process is the dharmic path, if it is connected, there is a connection with the Lord, there is it is a safe path. Specifically, a person takes up the process of devotional service, that is the safest path. Even if there is a miss, still there is a chance, as here Krishna is pointing out, that even little progress he makes, that's a very safe path. That's why these children, many children, they come to Krishna consciousness, they take up the path of Krishna consciousness. That is, you do not know what kind of great fortune they have had. Srila Prabhupada also pointed out that when one boy was playing kartal, very nicely he was playing kartal, he said that he should have been a yogi in the previous life. How is it possible? He should have definitely taken up Krishna consciousness before, and he has not completed it. That's why he is born in the family of the devotees. So it is a great opportunity for the children. So that is why Srila Prabhupada started this whole system of Gurukula, so that children from young age, they come in touch with this powerful process of Krishna consciousness. They chant Hare Krishna. Can we imagine somebody chanting Hare Krishna, how rare it is to chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra? Just chanting Hare Krishna, just giving oral reception, just honoring prasadam. It is a very powerful process. They may not be realizing what they are doing, but it is such an asset that they are getting. And the parents, the teachers, whomsoever, they are encouraging in this process. This is the best thing that could be done for them. There cannot be anything more better process than giving them Krishna consciousness. So it is always the most auspicious path and the most safest path, and we should encourage everyone to take up this process of Krishna consciousness. And now there is a further discussion. Krishna is pointing out about the endeavors that these people who have, these yogis, the transcendentalists who had not continued they would continue with the process of Krishna consciousness, or the process of in the path of transcendental realization. They take up with vigor and with great effort. Purvabhyasena tenaiva riyate yavashopi sah jignasur api yogasyam shabda brahmati vartate. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So now this is the point that we can many times see. Sometimes a person may be you might have joined the Hare Krishna movement maybe for a short span of time, but he makes such a rapid progress. How is that? We need to understand that definitely he's a very pious soul. He has done he's continuing from where he has left. Srila Prabhupada in this regard, he sometimes said that that actually for his disciples, he said that I am your Sukruti. He created the Sukruti for all the disciples. Even we are all running on the account of Srila Prabhupada's mercy. So that is a great glory of the followers of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada is so merciful, and he gives for those who are following sincerely the process of Krishna consciousness, he is showering his mercy. I think one time Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was in he had some surgery, I think. He was in the hospital. He had a dream. He recollects in his memory. He says that Prabhupada, I had a dream. You were with all the previous acharyas. You are giving a report, and you said that see those my disciples. They are neither they don't belong to a great background. They are from, many of them are from even within the Varnashrama system. They are below the Varnashrama system also. And they are not so scripturally well read, and their birth is not so pious, but all they are, for one credit, is they are attached to me, so this is what you are reporting. And then so the acharyas were pleased to hear that. And when Tamal Krishna Maharaj related this dream to Prabhupada was very peacefully, very humbly was hearing it. It is so, like that Prabhupada acknowledged it. Yes, that is actually the fact that for all of us, even this is my personal realization, even for those who are from so-called Indian background and whatever, we know what is going on here now in the modern days. If not for coming in touch with the Krishna consciousness movement, We were what kind of so-called brahmanas, so-called people born in Hindu families, what we are all doing? We are just watching stupid TV, watching cricket match, playing sports, and then doing all kinds of nonsense activities, gradually degrading, going away. We have no clue of Vedic culture. We do not know what is left hand, what is right hand, how to eat, how to behave. All this culture is so much degraded. There is absolute, without the Krishna consciousness movement, without seeing devotees who have set such a high standard, we would have just gone, astray. Somewhere we would be we will be sitting somewhere else today. We'll be working in some corporate. We'll be in US. We'll be in different directions. If not for Srila Prabhupada and his sincere followers, our situation will be very worse. So we are eternally indebted to Srila Prabhupada. Chakudam Dilojai Janme Janme Prabhu say. He is our spiritual master. He is our guide for life after life. So that is the thing. So now we can see here, Srila Prabhupada here is specifically pointing out, because he has taken up to this process even before, now because of that Sukriti, he is able to very quickly continue the process of Krishna consciousness, and he is able to make rapid progress. And here Srila Prabhupada is referring to the famous verse of in the Kapila Dev's section of the Bhagavatam, how by chanting Hare Krishna one surpasses all the levels of perfection one might be considered to be very high graded person in this material world, but he has surpassed all sacrifices by taking to the chanting of the holy names of Krishna. So it is always a very auspicious path to engage in the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. That is why we can see in the life of great personalities also how to understand. We can see the life of Sridhara Swami, how he was, I'm saying the Bhagavatam commentator, the great personality. He was also, he had his young wife. She gave birth to the child and then she left the body. So he was thinking, oh my God, now what do I do? I have a great responsibility. He was just thinking like that. And then what happened? He saw a lizard, baby lizard, it is trying to catch an insect and then eating. Then he got an inspiration from that. Oh, this baby lizard is able to survive on its own. My child will also will be taken care by the Lord. So he just gave up everything and he took sannyas. Who can do that? So that means that they are not ordinary personalities. We can see the life of Bilva Mangala Thakur. Bilva Mangala Thakur, his past, if you look at the past, we know how he was so much attracted by the prostitute, and to what extent he was attracted. His father died, the rites has to be performed, and he was so much attracted to her that it was almost a storm wind, and he wanted to meet the prostitute. So he just went running. There was a boatman who was not interested to help him, so he just jumped on the dead body. He just crossed the river with the dead body, and then he just jumped across the compound walls, he crossed the compound wall, and she was on the first floor of the house. So he was thinking that it is a creeper, and then he just went up the creeper. Then later when he jumped in, he saw that it was a snake, and then he explained all these things to Chintamani, saying that, okay, what are you doing here? How did you come here with all this situation? No, I simply wanted to see you. And he explained all these things, how he came with great rush and undergoing all these difficulties. And she just said one statement. She said that if you show this determination and this enthusiasm towards Krishna and you engage in Krishna's service, your life will be completely different. Immediately, it was a great turning point in his life. And then he became devotee. He immediately just left everything and went to Vrindavan. How many of us it will happen something like that to us? So which means that he has done something before. Yes, definitely has made some progress. For whatever reason that was stopped, and when the particular moment came, and he made progress. So this is the key point here. And we should not try something like that. We may even go to some place in Salem. I do not know what are those places, but you may go and then try to preach to someone and then tell them about this. It may not happen. So, but we can understand that this is because of the purvabhyasa. Whatever in the previous lifetime, the practice that is done, one can make progress. So that is the whole point here. Krishna is making that. So from wherever one person has left, he will be able to take up and then make steady progress. So Srila Prabhupada here is pointing about Haridas Thakur, how he was so fixed up in chanting the holy names of the Lord. So he again points out the power of this Bhakti Yoga. Power of the Bhakti Yoga is in hearing and chanting the holy names of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada points out, although Haridas Thakur happened to take his birth in a Muslim family, he was elevated to the post of Namacharya by Lord Chaitanya due to his rigidly attended principle of chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord daily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And Prabhupada says one can surpass all the Vedic rituals by the chanting of the holy names. Unless therefore one is purified, one cannot take to the principles of Krishna consciousness or become engaged in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord Hare Krishna. So when the small boys are chanting Hare Krishna, so we should understand that they are surpassed. Although we may not be able to see now with their activities, but it is not something ordinary. If someone is chanting Hare Krishna means this is something unimaginable thing. It's a great fortune, the greatest fortune someone could have got in their own life. So, and then by that practice, what happens? He becomes very happy. Prayatnad yatamanastu yogi sangshuddha kilbishah aneka janma samsiddhas tato yati parangatim. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contaminations, then ultimately achieving perfection after many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So this is what happens by the purification. That he has made steady progress and he is able to attain the supreme goal. He is able to go pierce through the material coverings and go back to the Lord's abode. So Srila Prabhupada immediately points out the verse from the Bhagavad Gita, 7th chapter, verse 28. Esham tu antagatam papam jananam punya karmanam te dvanga moha nirmukta bhajante mam dridavvrataha. After many births of executing pious activities, when one is completely freed from all contaminations and from all illusory dualities, one becomes engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So sometimes we may think, oh yeah, actually this is the science. So as the jiva gets purified, he is able to become with great firm conviction and faith, he is able to take up the process of Krishna consciousness. But nevertheless, we should not underestimate the power of pure devotee and the mercy that he can shower. So if we are sincere to follow the instructions of a spiritual master and very sincerely endeavor in this process of devotional service, we can be purified of all our misgivings. This is the power of devotional service. So we may be from any background, any situation, but if we have faith, that's why Srila Prabhupada also time to time points out this verse, and also we many times discuss this. This is the key to success in the process of Krishna consciousness. Yasya deve parabhaktir yata deve tata guru. Tasyarte katitai artha prakashante mahatmana. So even if one has come out from various other backgrounds, by taking shelter of these holy names with faith and with sincerely trying to please the spiritual master, one can attain to this perfectional stage. Okay, now Krishna further points out he gives a gradation of the various yoga systems. Tapasvibhyodiko yogi, jnanibhyopi matodikah, karmibhyashchadiko yogi, tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruity worker. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. So here Krishna is pointing out that better be a yogi, that is far better than all other practitioners. So here in this purport you can see Srila Prabhupada we can see throughout this 18 chapters, Prabhupada in many places gives different definitions and which are very much in sync with the understanding of Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga and Dhyana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. Here is another outlook Srila Prabhupada is presenting. When we speak of yoga, we refer to linking our consciousness with the Supreme Absolute Truth. So this is the basic understanding. Yoga means linking with Supreme Absolute Truth. That's where the whole process of transcendence begins. When the linking process is predominantly in fruitive activities, it is called Karma Yoga. When it is predominantly empirical, it is called Jnana Yoga. Empirical means you are trying to handle the situation with the senses and mind, and as we discussed, the process of neti and all those processes. And when it is predominantly in a devotional relationship with the Supreme Lord, it is called Bhakti Yoga. So in the devotional relationship, we understand Krishna to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We are His eternal servants and we are engaging in His service. So this is the process of Bhakti Yoga. Now here Krishna says about be fixed in yoga. See, he is in this verse, if you observe very clearly, he speaks that the yogi is better than karma yogi. He says he is better than jnana yogi. But Krishna doesn't say that he is better than bhakti yogi. He didn't point out that. Prabhupada is pointing out the purport. The Lord has confirmed here in the superiority of yoga, but he has not mentioned that it is better than bhakti yoga. So bhakti yoga is full spiritual knowledge, and therefore nothing can excel it. Asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. Empiric knowledge without surrender to the Supreme Lord is also imperfect. And fruity work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. Prabhupada outright rejects it. Now, what Srila Prabhupada is pointing out, so this is also asceticism, no? This eightfold yoga system. But in this eightfold yoga system, there is a touch with the Paramatma. But there is another asceticism that we also discussed when we were discussing the 4th chapter. Some of them take up to the process of tapasya and vrata. For what? Yeah, for example, we discussed about the Chandrayana vrata, Chaturmasya vrata. One may be engaged in, but that is also not perfect, because it's not completely on the path of self-realization. One may expect some result from that. So Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that so the best yoga is the Bhakti Yoga. So even here in this context, it is about the he says that it's better to be a transcendentalist like this, because he comes in touch with the Paramatma and he realizes the Paramatma. Now further Krishna is going to establish the very clearly and precisely and in a very straightforward manner. Krishna is going to establish now that this, of all the yogis, the Bhakti yogi is the topmost yogi. So we hear from Krishna himself. Okay. Yoginam api sarvesham madhyatena antaratmana shraddhavan bhajate yomam sameyukta tamo matah. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who abides in me, thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental loving service to me, he is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So this is a very important verse to be memorized and to be learnt, because this verse is the key verse which is the link for the rest of the chapters as well, and a clear verse which speaks about pure devotion. And also Krishna clarifies in a very simple manner. He is saying that my devotee is the topmost yogi. So he very clearly establishes that. Now Prabhupada goes on to explain in the purport the significance of the word bhajate. We already discussed yesterday about how this word bhaj is the root word, how it is referring to devotional service. So here Prabhupada discusses about the difference between service and worship. Worship may be to any honorable person, it could refer to any respectable person, but actually service is only for the Supreme Lord. So why it is like that? Why it is not some statement that Srila Prabhupada is speaking on his own? Why service only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead? We had discussed this in some other classes as well, because it is a shastric statement. It's a statement that is given in scripture. In very simple terms, we can understand we are all part and parcel of Krishna. We are all meant to serve the whole. So that is how our service is for the Supreme Lord. The hand has to serve the body. So this is in simple terms we understand. And also scripture says, Jiva Bhuta Harer Eva Na Anya Seva Kadachana. So the Jiva by constitutional position should render service only to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because that is the situation. That is why Srila Prabhupada is pointing out here that service, the word service can be used only in regard to the Supreme Lord, not for anyone else. So he says, what does fall down means? Fall down is the situation when we don't serve the Supreme Lord. So when we are not fixed in our constitutional position, that is considered to be fall down. Ya esham purusham sakshad atma prabhavam ishwaram na bhajanti avajananti stanad bhrashta patantyadaha. Anyone who does not render service and neglects his duty unto the primeval Lord, who is the source of all living entities, will certainly fall down from his constitutional position. And in this verse, Bhagavatam verse that is being referred here, that is also pointing out the word bhajanti is being mentioned here. And again, this bhajanti refers to the Supreme Personality of the Lord only. So that is the point Srila Prabhupada is giving reference here. So that now Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain that how only the devotee can give a clear explanation, not others. Others cannot understand Krishna, and as a result their commentaries are without the service attitude. Attitude of service is missing in the commentaries of other so-called commentators of the Bhagavad Gita. Now there is another important point here which is being discussed before also, that all the yogas actually should culminate in devotion. That is the perfection of all the yoga systems. Now again another definition Srila Prabhupada is giving here. Karma yoga without fruitive results is the beginning of this path. When Karma yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, the stage is called Jnana yoga. Again the yoga ladder Prabhupada is showing here. When Jnana yoga increases in meditation on the super soul by different physical processes and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, it is called Bhakti yoga, the culmination. So this is what Srila Prabhupada pointed out before in the previous purpose also. So, Vasudevam Sarvamiti Samahatma Sudurlabha. So one to come to that conclusion that it is ultimately it is Supreme Lord Vasudeva, Supreme Lord Krishna, who is the cause of all causes, and one completely surrenders to him. So Bhagavatam also points out that, Vasudeve Paraveda, Vasudeve Paramaka. So all these explanations are given that ultimately he is the supreme shelter. He is the shelter of supreme, all the sacrifices. So this has to be understood. So all the yogas should culminate in the Bhakti yoga. So one is the direct system of Bhakti yoga. Right from day one, a person in the process of Krishna consciousness engages in the service of the Lord and he attains perfection by this process. If someone goes through the other processes, he takes up to the process of karma, then he becomes detached, then he gradually, by the practice of karma, he gains the knowledge, and then from knowledge he takes up to the process of this Ashtanga yoga process, comes in touch with the Paramatma, and then he rises to the level of Shanta in that way, that he accepts, he is able to see the Lord, supremacy of the Lord, and by the intervention. In all these processes, there is one key thing. For one to come to the level of bhakti, there is an intervention required of a pure devotee. Without the intervention of a pure devotee, one will not be able to make further progress. So that has to be understood. Okay, Srila Prabhupada points out here. The yogi who is progressive is therefore on the true path of eternal good fortune. One who sticks to a particular point and does not make further progress is called by that particular name, Karma yogi, Jnana yogi, or Dhyana yogi, Raja yogi, Hatha yogi, etc. If one is fortunate enough to come to the point of Bhakti yoga, it is to be understood that he has surpassed all other yogas. And Srila Prabhupada gives another nice analogy here. Therefore, to become Krishna conscious is the highest stage of yoga. Just as when we speak of Himalayan, we refer to the world's highest mountains, of which the highest peak, Mount Everest, is considered to be the culmination. So all other mountains are there, but Mount Everest is very tall. So Bhakti yoga is completely in the superior position. And now Srila Prabhupada further in the purport points out why Bhakti yoga, what a devotee does, why the process of chanting and hearing, he comes to the smaranam, he comes to remember the beautiful form of the Supreme Lord as Shyama Sundara. So this is the Acharya who is coming in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, immediately concludes by giving the meditation on the two-handed beautiful form of Shyama Sundara. So we can see Srila Prabhupada's commentary, which is in the line of Brahma Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So we can see previous Acharyas, Bharata Vidyabhushana Prabhu, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, exactly pointing out how a devotee, a yogi, a bhakti yogi, he meditates on the beautiful form of the Lord. So what is the form of the Lord he is meditating on? The ideal yogi concentrates his attention on Krishna, who is called Shyama Sundara, who is as beautifully colored as a cloud, whose lotus-like face is effulgent as the sun, and whose dress is brilliant with jewels, and whose body is flower garlanded. So here the personal form of the Lord is stressed. Illuminating all sides is his gorgeous luster, which is called the Brahma Jyoti. He incarnates in different forms such as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, and Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he descends like a human being as the son of Mother Yashoda, and is known as Krishna, Govinda, and Vasudeva. He is a perfect child, husband, friend, and master, and he is full with all opulences and transcendental qualities. If one remains fully conscious of the features of the Lord, he is called the highest yogi. So this is the point. So even a bhakta, the yogi, a yogi in practicing devotional service, he may engage in all kinds of austerities. We can take the example of Devaki Vasudeva, they engage in austerities. The austerity is to please Krishna. No? So that is an important point, that a devotee may undergo all kinds of difficulties, everything he may take, but he is completely fixed on the personal form of the Lord. He wants to please the Lord. So how to attain this perfection? Prabhupada is concluding again with the same verse that we discussed. So Prabhupada is speaking that to come to this platform of absorption in the beautiful form of Shyama Sundar, one needs the mercy of the spiritual master, and one should have faith in the words of the spiritual master and the faith in the words of Krishna. And then Srila Prabhupada further gives references from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad that one should take up to the pure devotional service. Bhaktir asya bhajanam tad iha mutropadi nairasyena mushmin manakalpanam etad eva naishkarmyam. Bhakti means devotional service to the Lord, which is free from desire for material profit, either in this life or in the next. Devoid of such inclinations, one should fully absorb the mind in the Supreme. That is the purpose of naishkarmya. So that is the whole point here. The point is that one has to be purified from the effects of karma and jnana, and bhakti should simply be in a favorable way to please the Supreme Lord. So that is the whole key difference between the other processes and the process of pure devotion. Because in all other processes there is a selfish desire, but here there is absolutely no desire, which meaning the desire is only to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. Now, I'll just like to touch upon a couple of commentaries here. One is a nice statement about this verse that is given by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He points out from the Bhagavatam as well, Muktanam api siddhanam narayana parayanaha sudurlabha prashantatma kotishvapi mahamune. So very rare to see a person who is the pure devotee of the Lord. Very, very rare situation. So this is being spoken, I think, by Lord Shiva in the section of the Chitraketu section. This verse comes up there. This verse, the concise statement of bhakti, which will be defined in middle 6 chapters, is the thread-like ornament on the neck of the devotees. So this particular verse, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is pointing out that, because it immediately brings in the very first verse, which completely brings the glory of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the process of devotional service. Okay, here is what Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Mount Everest. Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu in his commentary points out, the devotee is like a golden mountain, while the others are just high and low mountains. The meaning is therefore, he who worships me, I consider to be the better than all the other yogis. So again, the superiority of the devotion is mentioned here. Okay, we will hear this also. It's also a very beautiful explanation by Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu. He who has firm faith in the words of Shruti, which indicate devotion to me, Shraddhavan, whose mind, Antaratmana, is completely attached to me alone, Madgatena, indicating that he cannot tolerate separation from me for a fraction of a second, serves me through the devotional processes such as hearing. You see, this is how the devotional service begins, from hearing. He serves me that form with the complexion of a blue lotus with thick arms reaching the knees. With lotus eyes opened by the hands of the sun, with cloth shining like lightning, that form brilliant with forest garland, crown, earrings, bracelets, armlets, necklaces, kaustuba jewel, and anklets, which destroys darkness in all directions with his effulgence. He serves me, the original Bhagavan, the Lord of all beings, with eternal forms such as Nrsimha and Rama, the Supreme Lord full of knowledge and bliss in human form, who drinks milk from the breast of Yashoda, who is addressed by such names as Krishna. That form filled with jewel-like qualities of beauty, sweetness and charm, with such qualities as affection, which takes shelter of my form and which is omniscience, omnipotence, Satya Sankalpa Shakti, always fulfilled, personified. My devotee, who is dedicated only to me, is considered to be superior to all different types of persons like tapasvis and others. So this is the glory of this pure devotional service. So you can see all the acharyas, Srila Prabhupada himself also, with great, when they are commenting on this verse, they are immediately glorifying the beautiful form of the Lord. You know, I was one other point here is Srila Baladev Vidyabhushan Prabhu is pointing out that how the Lord's hand is stretched up to the knees. You know, everyone is giving their own realizations of the Lord's beautiful form. So we are now with this verse, we are just completing the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So we are going to enter the most important chapters again, which are going to glorify the devotional service of the Lord. So we will stop here. So I again request those devotees who have questions, who have some realizations or some points, please send your questions on the group, and we will get back to you with the answers. So we will have the exam on this chapter on the Sunday, 3:30. and we will resume our classes. We will be having a break, and you will be getting further intimation when the classes will resume on the WhatsApp group. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Bhagavad Gita as it is ki jai. Hare Krishna.